Good morning. My name is Dr. Caroline Triepel. I appreciate all y'all coming out this morning. I'm going to be speaking on the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, what exactly is it? It's 2,409 pages. It's the largest expansion of the federal bureaucracy in the United States history. It has 159 new boards, commissions, and agencies, 4,000 new healthcare regulation, 150,000 new federal employees, up to 16,500 of which may belong to the Internal Revenue Service. All of these agencies, boards, and federal employees are designed to make me take care of y'all better and to cut costs. So why am I here? I'm getting paid. No, I am not getting paid. I plan to run for office. I have no plans to ever run for office. I'm a much better surgeon than I think I would be a legislator. I'll get more patients this way. Not really. Some patients might come to me. Other patients may choose not to come to me. I am here solely because I care about my patients, I care about my country, and I care about my 4 children. So what I hope to accomplish briefly in this half hour is to discuss what the PPACA proponents are saying and discuss perhaps some points that we can refute, debate, and discuss. And just as importantly, to bring up what the PPACA proponents aren't saying. So when I'm saying PPACA, of course, that's my short way of saying the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. So I put out there that within this campaign, we all know how important the budget is, the economy, and jobs. PPACA is a very important component of all 3 of these items. I'm going to briefly discuss the Supreme Court of the United States ruling, which occurred on June 28th. I remember specifically what I was doing on that date. I was at our office in Chesapeake and I was seeing patients. I was seeing patients during the morning, and in the afternoon I was driving to Charlottesville to pick up my daughter to camp. And I knew I wanted to kind of move efficiently through the patients, because once that ruling came out at 10:30 a.m., I just might be a smidge distracted. I was fortunate that at about the time the ruling came out, a patient of mine came in with a partial fingertip amputation. I needed to numb them up and I needed to kind of trim it down. So it was a nice way to kind of get out some of that excess energy and mull about the ruling while I was helping out this patient of mine. But that's what you do when you're a hand surgeon, you kind of work on these things. So the issues before the Supreme Court, the biggie was, of course, is the individual mandate constitutional or not? I'm not going to discuss that too much because we all know it was judged to be constitutional, but not according to the Commerce Clause, but according to the taxation powers of the Constitution. What I want to discuss is the 4th argument that was heard before the Supreme Court, one that did not get a lot of attention at the time because everybody was focused on the individual mandate, but one that is very, very important. That 4th argument in front of the Supreme Court is the law's expansion of Medicaid an unconstitutional intrusion on the states? And the argument before the Supreme Court was this was an exercise in coercion. It was forcing the states to expand Medicaid. And the Supreme Court said, yes, this is an unconstitutional expansion of Medicaid and an unconstitutional intrusion on the states. So now states have a choice. They can keep Medicaid as is or expand it. So short-term implications for the states if they do choose to expand Medicaid. It is oftentimes a leading budget item in most states. And under PPACA, with full expansion of Medicaid, there will be up to 84 million new enrollees by the end of the decade. And an important factor to consider is that states only receive 2 years of federal subsidy. Now let's look at the other side of that coin. Physicians in Virginia, and this does vary from state to state, but in Virginia, physicians are reimbursed 60 cents on the dollar of the cost of care. So let's hone this down even further. Again, taking Virginia as an example. In 2012, Virginia currently has approximately 1 million enrollees in Medicaid, and Medicaid is approximately 17.3% of the state's general fund. If Virginia chooses to expand Medicaid, we will increase our Medicaid enrollment by 41%, and our budget share will increase from 17.3% to approximately 30%. That's huge. So you take this expansion, and let's, on the other side of it, look at the fact that physicians are only reimbursed 60 cents on the dollar of the cost of taking care of a Medicaid patient. What we are going to see if we choose to expand Medicaid is an increased cost burden to taxpayers, but patients won't necessarily have increased access. A physician, to take care of a Medicaid patient, has to take 40 cents out for every dollar and pay to take care of that patient. And as a business model and as physicians, we need to pay our electricity bills, we need to pay our front staff. There's only so much loss that a physician practice can take. So it may sound wonderful to expand Medicaid, and you may even get over the fact that it's going to increase our budget from 17.3% for Medicaid to 30%. But when you couple that with the fact that once these patients have a Medicaid card, it does not guarantee them access to care, that is concerning. Coverage does not equal care. So let's discuss a couple of arguments, there are many, but a couple of arguments that the PPACA proponents are putting out there. What I did for this portion of the talk is I went to the Obama-Biden re-election site and I looked at 4 videos that are there under healthcare. And I would urge each one of y'all, if you haven't had the chance, to go to the website and look at them. They're very compelling, but they are not completely factual or truthful. So I'm going to discuss one, and this is a particularly heart-wrenching one because it discusses a child that was born with a congenital heart defect, and she needs to have 3 surgeries by the age of 18 months. And the parents come on and they say, wow, by 6 months, we had reached 50% of our lifetime cap for her. There's no way. By the time she get the 3rd, she would be at her cap, and boy, we are really thankful that the president's health care law was passed because that saved our daughter's life. And the dad gets on the video and he says, almost tearfully, that he has anxiety attacks. He wakes up and he just doesn't understand how anybody could not think that this law is such a great thing. It saved his daughter's life. And it is very compelling, and it really does pull at your heartstrings. But in order to cut costs, there will be a limit. There is an agency called the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute. This replaced the Federal Coordinating Council on Comparative Effectiveness Research. And I'll put out there that I think the two are probably very similar. The Federal Coordinating Council was designed to calculate comparative effectiveness ratios, where you take the cost of treatment and you divide it by the number of useful life years remaining. And this is analogous to the British NICE board. So I will put out there that perhaps insurance might not have a limit, but your government will. And perhaps in this case, this child would have never known that there were surgeries that were available to save her life because the government would not have allowed it. Now, if you're on Medicare, there's a different board, and we've heard a lot about this board, called the Independent Payment Advisory Board. This is a politically appointed board of 15 individuals. Their sole purpose is to reduce per capita rate of Medicare spending. They will determine covered services and the fees involved.